All steps sign up for
Let's go.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the UnFuckIt Discussion. It's the middle of February. I've survived this half of the month so far, which is awesome. I was just joking with everyone. This is the birthday month for my family. Like, everyone's got birthdays in the first 2 weeks. But today was the last one, and I've survived. I'm a little tuckered out, but that's okay. So today, I'm going to open up before we get going. I want to talk. We're going back to the good old topics I haven't talked about in ages. We're going to talk about the geomagnetics again. So we got some interesting fucking shit going on yet again in the geomagnetic fields. So give me a second. I'm going to take you over. Oh, goodness. Hold on, guys. Here we go. Faster, faster. We can do this. Come on, screens. Okay. It's been interesting the last couple of days. It's been interesting when we look at the peripheral information coming out, the little bits and pieces that they're putting out for everyone. So the first thing I'm going to show you is, and bear with me, I've got to find the right time stamp on this. Here we go. We're going to show you this one first. So on the 10th, February 10th at heading into late evening, we got hit with a major blast. Now I'm going to pull this and make this a bit bigger so you can see it. See, look, we haven't looked at these graphs in so long. So it's been quite a bit of unrest. There's been a lot of stuff that's obviously incoming. And then we had this little delightful one. And those of you who followed the stuff that I was talking about in January 2019 are going to go, oh, I've seen that before. So you have I'm going to blast through this really quickly. No pun intended. You can see we've got little bits of stuff coming in, small waves coming in. The magnetosphere is quite expanded out until we get to, let's go to right here. Starting at around 5 o'clock, we start getting a little more intense. There we go. I'm going to back this up to 1853, just before 1900, just before 7 p.m. to UTC. So you can see there's our first major blast, and then kaflooey. Now you're going to watch as, again, it continues really unrest, and then bang. That starts at just before 2100, and it continued almost completely non-stop until almost midnight. And you can see the blasts coming in. That continued all night long, and you can see the magnetosphere is being pushed right down. Okay, now we've seen all of this. It goes on, it continues all night long. Let's put this one down here. Continues the next day. Let me pull this out. Okay, continues the next day. And again, it's mostly early morning. You can see those blasts continue coming in right through. We're at 6 o'clock in the morning. The blasts continue till about noon. About noontime, things start to calm down a little bit. Okay, so that is yesterday. And here is this morning. Pull that out. Okay, and we're going to see again, well, we don't have any of those massively big blasts. You can see we've got continuous unrest. And we're getting a lot of compression here. This is what I'm seeing on all 3 days, a lot of front-end compression where there's obviously a lot going on. And you see the waves start picking up again around 5 o'clock in the morning, and we got quite a few going on coming in throughout the whole day, pretty much non-stop. So going back to the 10th, I'm going to look at the magnetosphere, but I'm going to show you this because we're going to take a look at the solar wind. Now, this is the solar wind numbers that we were hitting in the height of that massive blast on the 10th, between 10 and midnight. 1,366 kilometers per second. That's the numbers that we were hitting. We've got someone unmuted. There we go. Okay. Those are the numbers that we were hitting, and you can see that we go from 1800, it's like 5, 6, 4, and then all of a sudden we're at 1400 at night, right at that first major blast coming in. And it continues, it drops down to 380, then it bounces right back up again to up to 1000, and down and down and up. 1256 at 2256, sorry, 2253. We stay relatively high straight through until after midnight, and that's when the numbers start dropping down again. So the interesting thing about this is, though, I'll move all my other ones out of the way, is that, oh, more move them out of the way. Okay, what do we want to look at? We don't need to look at that. Okay. We do not have a coronal wind stream coming in. We have this one tiny little coronal hole over here, and Earth is magnetically connected, if you will, up here. Hold on, bring this over here. So there is Earth's, our magnetic connection to the sun is way over here. The coronal hole is down here. They're not calling for any coronal hole wind streams. They weren't. But we can see, so this is the density, this is the bulk wind speed. We can see that there was definitely some upticks. What is interesting is, oh, hold on, okay, so there's TSIS, hold on, or go over here, I wanted to go to the magnetic storms. During all of this, okay, the geomagnetic stayed relatively stable, and if anything, on the 11th, they dropped down to 0 for a few hours. There were no big geomagnetic storms. So what was it that hit us? And we go over here. We're looking at now ye old mainstream spaceweather.com. So first thing that comes up is cosmic rays, that we are that far from setting the record for the most amount of cosmic rays incoming in history. That, or at least in the time that they've been able to record these things. Massive, massive amounts of cosmic rays coming in. Now, this is the interesting one that I thought. Spoiler alert, is a meteor storm in space. It's not a meteor storm. Earlier today, chronographs aboard the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, SOHO, were staring at the sun, and they saw this flurry of stuff happen. Boom. And then, there we go, right? So they're trying to say, oh, it wasn't anything. It was, we just think sometimes we think these things happen when, what's the excuse? Hold on. The mission controllers believe that they are bits of insulation flaking off the sun-facing side of the spacecraft, reflecting sunlight as they race out of focus in front of the digital cameras. That's what they're saying. But today's event was much more dramatic than indeed a meteoroid may have been involved. A micrometeoroid strike may have dislodged a spray of insulation, they say, resulting not one but dozens of luminous streaks. Okay. When did this happen? Early morning on the 11th. During all the stuff, increased cosmic rays. We have weird stuff showing up here on the Oshidometer, as I like to call it. So what is actually going on?
Well, I don't know, but sometimes you should take a pause when you especially look at these Lascaux and So pictures. I mean, there's sometimes amazing shit in front of you.
Oh, yeah. All the
especially
time.
if you have what is it called? QuickTime. If you have the Apple version, you can literally use your arrow keys to go frame by frame by frame by frame through all of this. Enjoy the show.
Oh, yeah. No, this is the whole thing. I've been so swamped busy, I honestly haven't been following as closely as I usually do with the geomagnetic stuff that's going on.
Hey, Danny?
Yeah.
On that geomagnetic stuff, have you in your travels, researches, looking around when you look for it, have you kind of figured out the source of that, of those disturbances?
No.
I'm pretty sure you're convinced it isn't the sun.
Well, this is what I'm saying. That's why I say we have a coronal hole that's that big. We have no officially registering solar wind stream above 450. Yet again, we just saw blasts come through that were showing 13 and 1400 kilometers per second.
Right.
So if it's not solar wind stream, if it's not coming from the sun, then it has to be coming from somewhere else.
Right. And I'm just wondering if because I know there's 2 or 3 different versions out being floated out on the internet right now as to possible what that might be. And I'm wondering if you've either written them off, investigated them, or got your own interpretation.
You know what? It depends on the day of the week, because literally some people, there's obviously, like I said, we're seeing a massive increase of cosmic rays. We're seeing a massive increase of cosmic rays. We're seeing all kinds of astrophysics articles coming out talking about gravitational waves and pulses that are coming from the central sun of the galaxy, or the central black hole of the galaxy, as they call it. This entire past year, we've seen nothing but articles talking about the fact of, like, basically our solar system is being inundated with all kinds of stuff. And it's fine to say, oh, well, it's all new technology. They're just, they're just seeing this stuff for the first time. Yeah, no. The equipment that's out there that they're using now, most of it is stuff that they've been using for at least a decade. So when they're starting to take new measurements and seeing things like, all of a sudden the central sun seems to be flashing out in major amounts of light, looks like it's gobbling up stars, systems, there's something going on. And it's not, it's indicative of what we see happening on the planet. We see the massive increase in volcanoes, earthquakes, the storms of epic proportions that are just all over the place, where there's flooding, there's non-stop geophysical events happening across the planet at all times. And it's, climate change is not man-made, regardless of what they want to say. So what is it? I don't know, and I'm not willing to speculate. I mean, I could, like I say, I can speculate that I honestly think that we're seeing they're telling us that there's all this light frequencies coming in, that they're seeing all these blasts coming from the center of the galaxy. Is that what's hitting us? Because any of that is going to be carrying massive amounts of cosmic rays. God knows, we don't know. We honestly have no clue what is mixed in with all of that. It's not just a flashy light show. It's not just, hey, here's some fireworks, look at the pretty colors. There's a lot more stuff going on with that. The more we look at electric and magnetic universe tie-ins, you see that if there's something happening out there, that is playing through. It has direct effects as it comes through to our own solar system, our own sun, and our own planets. So this is the crazy stuff. Like I said, this is a major uptick that's, guys, for the last year and a half, the geomagnetics have been crazy, crazy insane. But this is just yet another example in the last 3 days of, we know it's not the solar wind, because the measurements aren't showing it. And yet we can see it, and for a lot of people, felt it and got completely knocked sideways on the 10th. So something came through, energetically, magnetic, electrical, however you want to call it. So I don't know, it's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. But that's all we do these days. We just do crazy. We just do crazy all the time. Crazy. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you guys. It's
hyper crazy. It's hyper crazy.
Hyper crazy. Yeah. No, I forgot. I closed the chat down. I've got to see what everyone's saying in the chat over here.
Okay. I just reopened it. I was just going to say, normally the way we learn stuff, what is we eliminate we find out it is not.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would dare say that I conclude, and I think you do as well, and probably a lot of us in here on that subject alone, it's not the sun. Now, what it is, we don't know, but we know pretty well that it's not the sun that's causing what you're identifying or looking at. So that means it's something else.
Yep, and that's where I keep coming back to. That's why I always go through all the, it's kind of the whole, is not the Sherlock Holmes things. First, you kind of have to take everything out of the equation that is there that makes sense. So the same thing. Okay, we've got something's coming in. Is it the solar wind stream? No. Do we have a coronal hole? No. Do we have a solar flare? No. Did we have anything that happened on the sun? Some kind of a CME incoming? No. Okay. So cross that stuff off all the list and then say, okay, what are we left with? Right? Now, interesting. Now, I don't know, because I've just been so ridiculously busy for the last 2 days. I haven't had a chance to do any research. So putting this out there right now, zero research has been done on this. Okay? Standing up brooms. Now, I've laughed. I mean, I literally laughed. I woke up yesterday morning and fucking flipped on my Facebook, and it was like fucking brooms everywhere. There's fucking brooms. Oh, and some eggs. Some eggs too. But, brooms everywhere. I was like, what the fuck's happened this time? And everyone, I saw about 4 or 5 posts. I saw about 4 or 5 posts go by saying, NASA's announced that because we're getting the spring equinox, and because of that, brooms will stand up. And I'm like, it's not the spring equinox. We have like another month to go, over a month, before we even get to the spring equinox. Because I know the whole thing about, for example, the eggs. And I laughed because our own unfucker Amina, she stayed up for the vernal equinox until like 3 o'clock in the morning, when it was at like that perfect prime time so she could stand an egg up on her counter. And she says she did it. She stood it up, it stood there, and as soon as that, it goes past the PowerPoint, if you want to call it, the egg just went bloop and rolled right over. So we know that is a well-known fact, that during the actual point of equinox, that strange things happen, like eggs will stand up on end and things like that. Okay, but this broom shit, never heard of it before. So like I said, eggs in the equinox, that I've heard of. I've never heard of anyone balancing brooms before. Now, literally, in our Unfuckers group alone, there has to have been at least 15 people who tried it. I tried it this morning. I actually got my old crappy fucking broom, and it fucking stood up. And my boys were like, what are you doing, Mom? Seriously? Like, what are you doing, Mom? I've never heard of this before. Val. Bingo. Val just said, sounds like NASA is running out of fake explanations. So is that what it is? Did we somehow go through the vernal equinox fucking like a month early? Not the vernal equinox, the spring equinox. Like a month early? And they knew it was happening, so they thought, well, we better put some explanations out here, so just in case someone finds their broom fucking standing upright. But here's the thing. It's been 2 days, and the brooms are still standing upright. Is anyone else? Like, I don't know, chime in, because I know, Deb, I know that you tried it, and there was a whole bunch of people who posted pictures going, it's fucking there, and it's still there. Now, I couldn't get mine to stand up for very long, but I have a house full of kids running around and dogs.
Hey, Danny, on that subject, when I first saw that, I got curious, so I like to get more than one source, just like you do. And I looked on YouTube, and it turns out back in 2012, they had the same stuff. There's numerous videos on YouTube that are dated back 7 years ago that they were talking about the same thing relative to the equinox. And then
really?
Yes. And then I read a little further, and it turns out that they have, quote, scientists and news reports where they say that it can be done on any day. It's just a balancing thing with the brooms. And with the eggs, you can make an egg stand up as long as the yolk is settled towards the bottom, and they give you all the the scientific reasons why that's, you know, with balance and all that stuff. So all I'm saying is, if you look on YouTube, you'll see videos from 7 years ago that are claiming the same thing that you're seeing right now.
Okay, so
You know,
like I said, first of all, I will say it would never have crossed my fucking mind to have tried to balance my broom to stand upright. So putting that out there, never tried it before. My broom is a piece of shit. My broom, I can't even get it to lean against a fucking wall without it falling down. Literally. Deb and I had a huge giggle this morning because it was just like, I call my broom no, I'm not going to even say what I call my broom. I call it nasty names because it literally falls over continuously. It's on the ground. You're tripping over it, etc. I hadn't seen it before. The fact that someone was saying that it was NASA, like I said, I never looked into it to see if NASA ever said anything about this. I haven't had a chance to look into it. But that's like, no, perfect distraction, didn't it? Regardless of whether it is usual or unusual, whether it is an indicator of something on our planetary alignment, rotation, regardless, it was a great distraction. Well, and there was a couple of really good memes that immediately got fired out today that were like, you know, the one where it's the guy walking with the girlfriend, and he's turning to look behind him, and there's the cute girl walking past him, and like it's the famous meme, and the girlfriend's looking at him like, oh, because he's looking at the cute girl, and on it, it's the cute girl is now a balanced broom. He's looking, and she's the coronavirus with the mask going, oh, because no one's talking about coronavirus. Everyone's talking about fucking balancing their broom. So, wow, it was one hell of a fucking distraction. So one needs to think, what the hell happened in the last 2 days that they didn't want us talking about? Because holy shit. Hold on. So someone was saying about mountain lions. I'm just trying to scroll up here. Deb just said mountain lions are running in packs in the mountains. They never do that. I've lived in the mountains for over 3 decades now. Huh. Interesting. Oh, Bezos sold $4 billion in Amazon shares today, Anne? Really?
Yeah, interesting, huh? Economy crashing? What?
What?
No, not the economy.
not-
The supply chain. The supply chain is going to evaporate soon.
Because of the whole China shit. Well, here's the thing. Okay, so Gorf said Amazon lost a huge Pentagon contract. Interesting. Well, yeah, he knows his company's going to tank. Yeah, bossy. Well, here's the thing. And we're going to talk a little. I'm going to just touch on this with the coronavirus shit because, again, it's
hold
just
on. Before you go, there is actually a very brand new meme where people show the express charges from Amazon when they order stuff out of China. That is like literally for 2 days faster, like something like $600 or $700 just because.
What?
Yeah, I mean, you want to have express out of a quarantine, right? Like, you need a lot of sterilizing shit put on there, right? So, who knows?
Crazy shit. But here's the thing. Lest we forget, we've been talking about this since 2015. The Baltex Dry Index, which is the indicator, the global indicator of shipping. Okay, this is the indicator that tells us how much freight is moving from one country to another country on ships. The Baltex Dry Index has dried up. It has been plummeting since 2015 because there's a global recession happening. people are not ordering shit because they don't have any money to spend. So therefore, they're not ordering new cars to be shipped from China, new toys to be shipped over, etc. So we've already seen the Baltex Dry Index tank and getting worse and worse and worse every year. Strangely enough, because the Baltex Dry Index is going down, 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 the cost of sea transport is going up, 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 which is now why you have so much transport actually happening by the airlines, because the sea transport costs have gone up so high that the airlines have jumped in and gone, oh, well, you know what, if they're going to charge you, $1,000 to ship it by sea, it'll take 6 weeks to get there. We'll do it. We'll ship it 3-day express for $2,000. And people are taking it going, yeah, fuck, okay, fine, I'll pay the extra. Everything is going by air traffic right now. But here's the thing. We already know that all the shipping is dropping. There's currently a trade war going on between China and between China and the US. There has been for a couple of years now, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So whenever I keep hearing all this stuff with all the coronavirus stuff, and they're saying bioweapon, and I've seen a lot of stuff coming out saying, oh, it's the Chinese, they've thrown this bioweapon on their own people.
Yes.
Oh, look, there's no more protesters. Look, all the protesters are gone. All the protesters
It's not
are
about,
gone.
Danny, it's not about the protesters. It is about the huge, gigantic sausage fest that is literally China because of the one-child policy they have.
Okay, bossy, no, we're not going there. That is all just like, we're not going there. That is,
yes,
there's no radical change. But that is not, there's no radical change. The shit that's been happening is the shit has been happening.
Yes, but see it from this side. They have so many guys and so few women there. They actually kidnap women from, I don't know, the countries around, from North Korea and Vietnam to get brides. I mean, hang on, let me play the devil's asshole here for a moment. So we know they have a couple of million people cities ghosting somewhere. No one lives there, right? And we know that this is becoming bad. We know China is an export country. If they don't have export, they're going to collapse upon themselves if they can't get money from somewhere else. So now they have the problem. Too much men, too few women. So basically the idea someone pitched was, what if they want to avoid every male becoming at some point that is frustrated becoming the Joker, so they either have to use this plague, and the ghost towns are there for those people that are not infected, so they can, have almost a sterile place where they can go, or they might behave like the people behave if you have like a poultry farm and you have like a flu virus and you call everything and just move on to the next place where you build your next farm. I mean, I'm sorry to go that dark, but we are talking about China here.
But again, you're talking about China here. So listen, I have people that I know who are in China. And do you know what the reports I'm getting out of China, out of the World School Group? People who are in China, teaching in China, etc. They've all said it's nowhere near as bad as the news is saying, and the efficiency with which the health issues being dealt with is monumentally amazing. 3 different American families that I know that are in China right now have made statements saying, if it was America and this was happening, it would be Katrina all fucking over again. People wouldn't have water. People would be dying on the streets and rotting corpses just like Katrina. And they're saying it's not like that in China. It's not.
Yes.
They've been out there. Bossy, listen, let me finish. They're saying everything. The worst thing, the problem that they've had is that they've run out of stock of the masks. Everyone I've spoken to who is in China, and on the World School Group, there's a shit ton of families who are in China right now. Americans, British, French, German, you name it, in China teaching or working. And they all said the exact same. They all had that instant panic. Oh shit, because they're hearing it from their families. But the ones who are there are saying it's kind of business as usual. Everyone's being a little more careful, wearing masks, and that the government has been very, very fast and efficient of making sure that there's water, that there's food, that there's medication, etc., etc. So, going back to what I was originally saying, there's all this memes being going out, all this push of like, China's using a biological weapon against their own people. And one of the ones is, like I said, to stop the protesters. And I was like, if they were trying to stop the protesters, they would have hit Hong Kong first, not some city that not a single North American person has ever heard of before in China. No one's ever heard of Wuhan before until this happened. The other thing is, let's really look at this. If it is a bioweapon, and that is a really, really big if it is a bioweapon, let's talk about who's the most famous country in the world for using bioweapons. It's America. Right now, America is in a massive fucking trade war with China. They don't want to go toe-to-toe militarily with China, ever, for any reason. But if they were to do something outrageous that would start this and then feed the media, pump it through social media so that everyone is living in fucking terror of, oh my God, the coronavirus is coming to kill us all, then people stop buying anything from China because they've been told, oh, the virus will last on things for 3 weeks. News were the first people to put that little piece out. Oh, the coronavirus can last on top of a toy for like 3 whole weeks. So no one's going to buy anything from China. Wuhan is a major, Fred, is a major production area. Major production area for stuff. So then, what happens? What's happening right now? Oh, well, Amazon, they're now going to charge you $600 to ship shit. Express from China. Why? Because everyone's shutting it down. Why are people shutting it? Why are airlines and transport companies shutting it down? Is because of the pressure from the media and from the people. Okay? Exactly. Don't pop the bubble wrap. Don't pop the bubble wrap. The air's from China. Right? Like, this is the kind of stupidity we're seeing everywhere. Okay. If you have an international trade war going on, which we do, this is actually not an argumentable thing. It is a fact. There is a trade war, massive one, going on between China and the US. The people who are going to profit from this is the US, not China, because China is literally in international trade being shut down methodically right now. And the vast majority is being pushed through the media and through popular public opinion. Okay, so before we all, like I keep saying, it's very easy to jump onto the bandwagon and be like, oh, it's a bioweapon. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. There's a lot of shit that is not being put out properly. And I get that obviously 99.9% of people probably don't know anyone in China who they can ask. But we have been spin doctored continuously, especially this last decade, about China. But how much actual proof has been brought out about a lot of this stuff that's said? Now, I'm not saying it's not happening. Don't get me wrong. Don't think that I'm defending China. They're a disgusting, disgusting fucking government. What I'm saying is that we have to stop jumping on these rabid trains that are just derailing everything and throwing people into a wall. Before we jump on this train, we need to look at the basic information. Last week we talked about it. It's a virus. Coronavirus it's a fucking virus. From what we are hearing, from any of the information that seems legitimate, for example, there was a study that's just begun. Do I have it still open? I think I just fucking closed it too. I did too. Hold on, give me a second. Just begun. Here we go. Vitamin C infusement treatments in China for treating the coronavirus. The study began on the 10th of this month. The start date, February 10th. They're giving patients 27,000 units of vitamin C a day. Hold on, I'm trying to find the actual number. I want to make sure I'm giving out the right number. Where is it? Oh, I'm trying to scan through all of this. It's a mass IV intravenously. Massive vitamin C doses a day to combat this. In the description of the study, in the preparation of the study, they have said, the thing with this is that, hold on, trying to find it. You'll just have to give me a second, guys. I'm scrolling through the entire study trying to find the information, which is not easy. Of the people who are dying, it's mostly the people who are older and have pre-existing health problems. And they give numbers of for example, one ICU in this one hospital that is running this study about the patients who were brought in, what they required, how many required ventilation, how many had gotten secondary pneumonia. That's the killer on this one, secondary pneumonia, and that they end up with viral pneumonia, and that it ends up going into sepsis. Sorry, I can't even talk tonight. Now, this is a study coming out of the hospital that is running this IV test, and the background information is talking about the fact the vast majority of the deaths, which have not been at this hospital, the people who died were old and they had pre-existing health problems. Now, Anne, you were saying, you were talking to some of the homeopaths. Was it in Hong Kong? Was it Hong Kong?
Yeah, a virologist did a briefing with the Hong Kong homeopaths, and he said that so far from what they can make out, the fatality rate is aligns this so-called pandemic with something like the common cold. It's not. It's less than 1%. Now, that's as far as they know. We have to preface everything with as far as they know. Yeah.
But that's just it. And so this is a guy who's a virologist speaking to homeopaths in Hong Kong. So again, we're not talking about Western media. We're not talking about something that's being said in England, in Canada, in the States, in Germany, in France, in Italy. This is happening over in Hong Kong. So
I have a question, Danny.
Yeah, Earl.
You think this could bring down the communist government in China?
No.
Could this be a crippling thing? Okay.
No. No, I don't think so. No. God knows. I shouldn't say no, but I can't see it happening. I certainly can't see it happening. So this is the whole thing. So there's, like I said, just when we look at all this information, we need to use logic and reasoning. Logic and reasoning when we're sorting through the information. Who is the source of the information? Where is the information coming from? CNN? That's one of the things that's kicking me. As I've got people posting articles from CNN, NBC, all these Fox News, all these American news sources, and holding it up like it is the goddamn fucking Bible because look, CNN said it. Meanwhile, just 2 weeks ago, the same people were calling CNN nothing but a bunch of fucking liars and calling them out every time they were caught in another lie and another whole ball of bullshit. But now they're talking about coronavirus, and everyone's using them as a source. Like, oh yeah, it's the truth. Just cautioning everyone. Just cautioning everyone.
To be rude again, I wasn't finished because there was a new theory today coming up, since there was an article in RT where they talked about that scientists, in quote mark, found the I don't know how it's pronounced in English, the Greek guy Achilles heel. They found, so to speak, an Achilles heel to most of the viruses and shit like that. And people were like, oh my God, look, just in time, they came up with a cure, so to speak. Let's all get vaccinated against every goddamn virus there is, right?
Yep.
So, see, there is this one thing that is so perfect for mass vaccinations. Then the other thing that I mentioned earlier, which is pretty dark, is also a very interesting angle. And then there's also the other angle. Why the hell would America do it without a proxy? Like, like normally, like, oh my God, there's a virus. Some terrorist organization says, oh my God, yeah, we were the guys, we unleashed it. So you have a proxy, you have deniability. But in this case,
but they don't. I mean, with viruses, they never have a proxy. They just sit there. They always call it natural. Oh, it just happened.
Yes, exactly.
It just happened.
Here's the point. If China can prove that this is a thing that came out just of a lab of, like, let's say, an American thing. I mean, we know it with atomic bombs, with certain things. You have traces that you can literally pinpoint where it came from. So why the hell would America give them a reason for retaliation? Like a literally a legitimate reason to go in front of the UN and say, see, they literally declared war on us with that thing. So we want to... Exactly.
Except that. Have you ever seen any world government ever go up against the states and point out and be taken seriously? No. Have you ever seen any world government? Have we seen Russia come out and say, this is the bullshit of 9/11? This is the bullshit of the moon landings? This is the bullshit of all this is lies? No. These guys all work together. They might be playing their war games like a big giant game of Risk on the table, using us as fucking collateral, no doubt. But you never see them outing each other. And when you do, those are the ones who are labeled the bad guys, i.e., for example, like Assad goes out and talks about the fucking shit that America has done in Syria. Does anyone listen? No, because he's been labeled a dictator. When Maduro tried to talk about the shit that the U.S. had done to them, did anybody listen? No. They're just the little guys over here. Russia and China and America, they're the big boys. They're playing the big boy game. However that works out. You never see this happen. We know that the 2014 Ebola outbreak was a bioweapon. Right down to finding the lab stuff, finding everything about it. Has anyone exposed this information? No. No government has.
Yeah, but
they don't all know? Of course they all know.
But till now we weren't so separated. Now we have the American official government and we have the shadow government that is fighting the one in power right now. Like, I mean,
it's always been that way, Bossy. I'm sorry. It has always been that way.
Perfect to say, like, look, Trump did this, or Trump says, look, the Democrat deep state did this.
It's not going to change. This is... Ideologically, I agree with you. Ideologically, since 2011, I've been waiting for someone like Putin or the guy in China or someone to come out and start saying these truths that we all know. I'm getting to the point, you just go, it's never going to be said publicly. They're never going to say it publicly. For whatever the reason is, it's never going to be said publicly. Now, the whole thing of tracking it all back, of like, like I said, the U.S. has already set up a really nice, really great distraction in the fact of they've already alleged that Canadian and American scientists were illegally sending samples of dangerous viruses to China for China to have. So they've already ticked off that box. Because if anyone comes back and goes, hey, that's your virus that came out of your country. Oh, no, that was one of the ones that was stolen. No, someone stole it. They lost it. They fucked up over there. And they're the ones who caused the outbreak. This is the way the game is played. There's never a what we would think of as normal, rational people, a straightforward back and forth, he said, she said, pull out the facts, disprove it, whatever. It just doesn't happen that way. Hold on. There's a whole bunch of comments went by, and I'm just going to scroll back up.
While you read, I just want 1 second just to insert what I heard Bessie said at some point, the Democratic deep state. Guys, be really careful. That's a very new narrative I'm hearing, and I don't like it. There's no such thing. Deep state is the deep state. Exactly. They have exterior stories to please one part of the electoral people and another part, but they're all the same when it comes to all the issues that we hate: oil, gas, bullshit, environment. You name it, corporations, banks, and all the shit, they are one and the same. There's no Democrat deep state. Be careful. There's a very heavy Trump propaganda. I'm not saying he's horrible, but he's certainly not a savior. So chill out. Stop repeating. The alternative news are so corrupted by now that 70% of the sites are 70% full of shit, and most of the rest do not have Danny's courage to speak out their mind. They go with the flow. They will go with what people want to hear right now and what the big ones, the big alternative news outlets are saying, because they just want their clicks and they don't want to be demonetized and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So be very discerning in what you listen to.
I want to go further than that. Okay. Thank you, Brianna, for bringing that up, because that is something I fucking noticed, and it pisses me the fuck off. And Americans are literally at the top of the fucking pinnacle of the tower for this left versus right, red versus blue, fucking you name it, Republicans versus the Democrat. Everything is blamed on. Okay, you talk about the American deep state. George Bush was not a fucking Democrat. John McCain was not a fucking Democrat. They were the kings of the deep state. Okay? So please stop playing this. Everyone seems to want to very, very conveniently forget the whole George Bush eras. Both of them. Everyone wants to conveniently forget that at that point in time, it was the Republican Party in charge, and it was as corrupt as can be. Because right now, they're going to play a distraction. The distraction is Trump is good, Democrats bad. Republicans good, Democrats bad. And it has been very, very cleverly planted for several years now, and they're just grow it to the point of, like I said, what Brianna just said, truthers, people who should fucking know better, coming out and being like, Democratic shadow state, shadow government. It's not democratic.
And they know. And exactly. They know it's that corrupts are not only Democrats. They know it. But it's mainly now the Democrats put themselves in this space. And what I wanted to say is for the former discussion we had about the virus. Mm-hmm. I came across a post on Facebook by Mel Fabregas. I don't know if you know him, Unicus, I think. Yep. And he put out that usually in China, the month of February, they always shut down the
Exactly. Exactly. The whole country is shut down for Chinese New Year into February.
No, and even longer. Sometimes some of the production places even into mid-March.
Yep.
So, and he wrote a note that it would be a litmus test to see if the stock of Walmart is full or not, if this time has passed.
Yep.
For what it's
John
worth,
Rappaport also put out a really good article on this. I posted it in the Unfuckers group. Go ahead, Maureen. I'll go back to that in a second.
I read that. I asked Mercy because she alluded to it, and she sent a link. I read it while you were talking, and I actually copied and pasted. It took 3 because of the length of it, but it is in the chat if anybody wants to scroll back up. The whole thing is there, but it does take a few minutes to read. What she says is right. He's saying that it coincides with a normal shutdown in China.
Yep.
That, and and he's also throwing off on people who are not taking that into account, you know, as just skimmers of the news rather than actual researchers who actually are looking into the thing. And the point is that she says, most of China shuts down for a month in February, and some of them come back sooner, but by mid-March, if you don't see these factories started back up, then you know it's real. Otherwise, it's just a cover story to do a whole bunch of other things, like, for instance, get rid of dissidents, get rid of the undesirables in China, and other than that, it's a scam.
Can I jump in here a moment, please?
Absolutely, Leonida. Go ahead.
Okay, I was doing some research the other day, and it was alluding to the fact that it was talking about bullying. All right, and how people react to it. And it was studied that the people that witness bullying and can't do anything about bullying are more traumatized than the person that was actually bullied. So is this another control mechanism, and is just another dust in the wind snowflake? Doesn't matter because they're going to do what they're going to do. And the question would be, are we going to continue to fight, or are we going to look deeper and figure out that what we're discussing really doesn't matter at this point, because we don't have hands-on experience with what's going on, and are they trying to traumatize us and make us feel like a victim instead of a fighter? And look at the bigger, broader picture, because it's right wing, left wing, same bird. Okay, it doesn't matter.
Leonida, I agree with you 100%. I think that is a really, really fundamental important. And I like the comment what you just made about the whole thing of the bullying, and that's really interesting. The fact that they found that there was more emotional trauma to those who were forced to watch the bullying and could not do anything about it than there was even to the victim. That is interesting. And that's the kind of shit that we talk about. Like, when it's putting people into that state, that emotional state, where they're experiencing that kind of emotional trauma, what Anne was talking about last week, putting them into that fear state, for example, using the coronavirus as an example, into that gelsemium homeopathic fear state of the flu, it's very, very easy to kind of push people into that corner and put them into that place. I think that's thank you. That's really, really interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
Yes.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Leonida.
If I could jump in here real quick. I'm sorry, Mercy. If I could jump in here real quick, I was going to say that it also, you mentioned about the people watching, kind of feeling the way they do. I think it's another way. The whole victimization thing ties into this too, but they also identify with. There's a certain identifying with the victim.
Yep.
Identifying with the victim, which is not a bad thing. It means there's people are feeling for watching someone being victimized that that looks unjustifiable. It looks pretty fucked up. Yeah, I can see that.
Yep. Go ahead, Mercedes.
If you are interested, I know who put this information out about the bullying. It was by Amazing Polly, who studied before she came into this field of reporting and all this stuff. She studied psychology or all this bullying stuff. So
if you have a link, throw it into the chat. I'd really appreciate it if you do.
Yes, I will find it.
The one piece that, and of course I haven't been able to pull up the article because everything is just got to be difficult today. Go ahead, hon.
Can I add something? So, like how you were saying, well, the U.S. would never take, responsibility for what that's unlike what you hear, like in the Middle East. Oh, Hezbollah just, said, oh yeah, we did the attack. That was us. You would never see the U.S. do that. Like, with a viral attack or anything like that.
I can't find the stupid link. If someone go into Unfuckers and pull up the John Rappaport link that I posted today, I can't bloody find it now for some strange reason. I'm now scrolling through the Unfuckers group going, is it in here? Please let it be in here. But he talks about, basically he talks about when we talk facts, not hearsay, but actual facts. And we're looking at this point of looking into the past, right? Basically those who learn from history, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it again, right? When SARS happened, we know that they stopped testing people to see if they actually had the SARS virus. All across North America, Canada and America, stopped testing people. We know that they were putting out these huge numbers, 60,000, whatever, 25,000 people have SARS. In actual fact, the proven numbers of the people who were lab tested and proven to have it were very, very tiny. And the vast majority of the people that they were saying had SARS didn't have SARS, didn't even have the flu. They had some other thing. They had pneumonia. They had a cold. They had, congestive heart failure that was coming on through something else. That's not just SARS. The same thing happened with Norwalk. The same thing happened with the H1N1. The same thing happened with the H1N5. Each and every time, it's the same play out. So I don't understand why people think this is different. Why are people really hanging on to this? Like, this time it's going to be different. This bioweapon, this pandemic is going to be different from all the other ones. People are really clinging to that. And I have to wonder why. And honestly, I would really invite people to really look. Why is it? If people are panicking about this coronavirus, if you're just newly woken up and this is like your first time around the merry-go-round, I get it. I totally would understand why you would panic. But if you've been doing this for years, like the rest of us, this ain't your first time around the roundabout. You've been through this multiple times. So why is this time being pushed as being different than all the other times? Because I think there's a clue in there. There's a clue. Now, again, what else is going on in the world? We have a shit ton of bombing going on in the Middle East right now. Is anyone talking about that? Is anyone talking about the fact that the U.S. themselves bombed Yemen and took out one of their military leaders? Is anyone talking about that? It seems like a whole lot of fucking silence to me. Israel just bombed the shit out of Palestine. Is anyone talking about that? Still listening? No, don't hear anyone talking about it. We've got all this crazy shit going on that no one's talking about. Is that why they're making sure that they keep this coronavirus front and center? To get people to just seriously be terrified, let's only talk about this?
While you read the chat, I'm going to make just two little assumptions. I don't know if it's called assumptions. This is where my mind is going right now. While we're busy talking about globalization and the one world and all of that, what it feels like they're doing right now. And it all comes down to the same type of fear, fear of pandemic, fear of immigrants, fear of foreigners, fear of this, fear of that, is turning all the states into locked up little places. Yep. All of our countries, we all going to they're almost like they're pushing us to retreat in our little corners, stay there in an afraid mode, in a combat afraid mode, and not being wary of all the strangers, wherever they're coming from.
Closing the borders up, so to speak.
Yes, but closing the border for whom? For us, for people.
Exactly.
Not for their merchandise. The corporations are globalized already. There's nothing more to globalize about them. Believe me, they're very happily globalized. Us, they're going to close us down. That's what I fear. And secondly, that is a theme. I'll talk with Danny separately, and we'll see maybe if she wants to talk about it. Right now, I'm just making this little prediction. If Trump gets elected in 2020, the next agenda will be getting the U.S. out of the UN, out of the United Nations.
Yep.
And believe me, it's not a good thing.
No, and that's another piece of the subtle, the really subtle programming. UN bad. UN bad, UN bad.
Right.
Look, we all know the UN is bad. Let's face facts. It's just fuckery, right? It's a useless fucking piece of shit fuckery. That's all it is. But. Okay, here's the thing. The U.S., George Bush, back to the U.S., out of the international law, out of the Hague. Somebody help me.
The Hague, the International Tribunal, the CCI, and Trump just sent them back. They didn't allow them in the States. What's it called? The ICC, the International Court, blah blah blah, which does call people responsible for war crimes.
Exactly.
When they do, they're
exactly.
But it still works to an extent. We need those people as bad as they are. I'd rather have them than not.
Yeah, it's corrupt. We get it. We totally get it. But this is the organization that holds people accountable for war crimes. When Nicaragua tried to hold the U.S. accountable for war crimes, the American government said, fine, we're not going to play in your little playground anymore. We're taking our ball and we're going home. And we're going to pass new laws that say you can't hold any American citizen guilty under your international courts. Well, where are all the fucking big corporations located? In the fucking States. So no one of it internationally can hold those courts, those corporations, let alone the Pentagon and fucking all that shit, accountable unless they go to the states and fight it in the American federal courts. Now, you think they're going to win? If you're some group from China, from India, from Brazil, do you think you're going to win in the American courts? No, you're not. It's already been proven. So this is the whole thing. The U.S. pulling out of the United Nations has been, again, another piece very, very cleverly planted to make it sound like, oh, rah, 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 yay, we're going to leave. It's not a good thing. Because as corrupt as it is and such fucked up shit as it is the one organization that is calling out war crimes that are happening, that are calling out and saying, hey, We have got fucking shit going on over here, over here, over here. We need to make statements. What are we going to do, et cetera, et cetera. The U.S. pulls out. They will walk away and be held completely unaccountable. There will be no governing body left that can hold the U.S. accountable for any of its crimes. Not an American corporation, not the American government, not American lobbyists or fucking the Pentagon or the war machine, nothing. So I want, just think, don't fall for the raw shit. There's a lot more to this than what is being stated. And this is all, again, been very cleverly fed to the American public over the last few years. Very, very cleverly to lead to these points where we are now. And at this point, all of a sudden, like I say, the words you hear coming out of people's mouths are...
UN, wasn't there the League of Nations?
The League of Nations before the United Nations, yep.
Fall apart.
Say that again, Earl. I didn't hear the last thing you said.
I said, about the League of Nations. Before the UN, there was the League of Nations. But then that fell apart, because of World War I think. I could be wrong, but I know it fell apart.
I can't remember when it fell apart. It was after World War I that it fell apart.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The UN replaced the League of Nations.
UN, exactly. United Nations replaced the League of Nations.
They were created after World War II, blah, 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 to replace the League of Nations. And now in Switzerland and Geneva, that's why they hold a lot of peace talks there, because there's still, that thing about Switzerland.
Switzerland and neutrality and all that bullshit.
Hey, Danny.
Yes, Penny.
Well, I agree with what you said. I also have to go, whoa, wait a minute. You're saying choose the lesser of the evil. And people, we need to wake up, and that is globally, that just like you said, it is corrupt. Okay? The people need to start taking these things back and removing the corruption. We can't just go, oh, well, the UN, it holds war criminals. Do they really? I've seen a lot of war criminals just go free. So they're not doing anything about that. No, it's a corrupt system. It needs to go, and we, the people, need to put something else.
I agree. Penny, I agree 100%. 100% I agree with you. No question. You're absolutely right. Not even a question. I completely agree with you. We do. It needs to be trashed. Every government in the world needs to be taken down, thrown in the garbage, and completely, just literally thrown out. Every government organization, we talk to the United Nations, the BIS, the IMF, all of these, they all need to be completely scrapped.
I would like to add just one more thing for people to think about, okay? Every crime that has been committed of the most heinous nature has been because of a leader, okay? People following leaders. Now, I'm not saying leadership is bad, but people need to start waking up and thinking for themselves, because you don't need a leader.
I agree.
Okay?
I agree. I will, devil's advocate, say it's not a leader that does all these atrocities. It's usually a board, as in the board of Raytheon, the board of Lockheed Martin. These are the guys who do this. It's not a singular leader. We all know that the war machine is driven by banks and corporations more than anything else.
Hey, on that one, Danny, I got a challenge on that one. The the leadership quote are the ones that proclaim to do this, that, and the other thing. Nothing gets done unless you've got followers implementing what they're being told to do.
Oh, yeah.
And that it goes in line with what Penny's talking about, which it basically is another version of what Dawn's been talking about for the longest time. People need to, if you want to change things, people have to start taking responsibility for their own actions in their own lives. And until they do, they're just going to be fodder for the machine.
Yep.
Now, individually, you know, you've got to do it for yourself. Nobody can do it for you. And you can't count on waiting on the 100th monkey or the next 10 million people somewhere else to do it. You got to do it for yourself. Once you do, it changes the way you respond to what you see around you. And
can I say something? I want to say something here because, you know, I've given this a lot of thought. You know, how we polarize ourselves in this realm, and it becomes more and more apparent to me all the time that in choosing me, I am actually acting as a balancer because I don't choose either polarity. I find that when I do that, I'm actually balancing out many things in my life because I'm no longer choosing or in that game. And I know there will be some that don't agree with me, and that's okay. I'm looking at this as more of an alchemistically driven point of view. I think as long as they keep us polarized, we're in the game.
Yep. No, I agree. And Bossy, yeah, listen, Anne sent me a link to a young Irish guy. I'll have to pull it. I sent it to Nick. I only got to listen to about the first half of it. And he's talking about anarchy. Part of what he's talking about is anarchy. Because, again, anarchy is one of those words that's been very subtly programmed. And the meaning of anarchy has been subtly, what an anarchist is, has been reprogrammed and co-opted so that when you say anarchist, you think some skinhead in boots, burning cop cars, tearing down shit. That's what you say anarchist, that's what you immediately visualize. And that's not the truth. Anarchy is without a leader. Living without a leader, without government telling you what you have to do and can't, yes, you can do and can't do, what you must do, what you cannot do, etc. And I'll find the link.
Danny, it's the
find the link.
Same bastardization they did with the word fascism. Google Google changed the original meaning of it, so they are literally out of the picture and they are not in any possible way fascist, right? Same with the word anarchy. And props to Maury. I mean, I think we all should be responsible for our actions and inactions. I like that perfect scene from that movie Avatar where that girl in that helicopter says, "Fuck it. I did not sign up for this. I'm going home. Screw you guys," right? Like, if you want us to do bad things, yeah, do it alone. Yeah, take your gun.
So I got another one for y'all. This is good too. So we know that the God of the Bible, we know he's a bipolar, sick murderer, right? But you'll notice in his scriptures, you know, okay, we just talked about being neutral and not being part of the polarity. So in the scriptures, he says, if you are lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. Now, I want y'all to think about that scripture.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Very interesting.
So basically, he said, if you're not either the blue team or the red team, if you choose to be the green team, you're a cunt, so to speak, because you're not playing my game, right? Like, screw you. We're doing our own shit.
Well, Anne dropped the link is in the here in our resume chat, and someone send me a message, please, and remind me, and I'll make sure I'll put the video with the article that will go with this. Like I said, this young man talking in Ireland, and he's talking about the ancient Irish government, the way Ireland's government, well, before it was Ireland, the way it was done. And it is very, very interesting. It's the Brehon laws. I didn't say that right, Anne. How do you say it?
Brehon.
Brehon laws.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Brehon laws of Ireland. Well, I highly recommend everyone give this a listen. This is the kind of stuff. I mean, Nick and I have had an ongoing conversation for literally years and decades. We could actually now measure it probably in decades now. We have these governments, and all these governments are formed by political parties. And honestly, the political parties need to disappear. The concept of political parties itself needs to be completely abolished. We need to be, for example, and Nick has said for a long time, he says, if there's going to be a system of governance, it should be a council. Well, it should be a council, but it should be a council of people chosen by the people. And I'm not talking about voting. I'm not talking about elections, because, I mean, Anne was just explaining to me the Irish elections. Holy shit, Anne, I don't even know how you people in Ireland can figure out the election process. That's insane. But Canada's just as fucked. The very last time I ever voted in Canada, you have to vote for your local MP. But our local MP, for the political party that I was going to vote for federally, was a fucking doofus. He was just an idiot. He was a complete fucking moron. But the MP for the Conservative Party, I'd met with several times, had some really good discussions with, and I was like, okay, I actually like this guy. I'd like to give him a chance. But I couldn't vote for the guy I wanted as my local representative without that going to my federal vote. Well, that's stupid. That's stupid. How many of us have been caught back when we used to vote, etc.? How many of us have been caught in that kind of a trap where it's like, well, here's a guy who you really, really like, but let's say he's an independent. So you can't vote for your local independent councillor because it's a national federal fucking election. And you got to vote for one of the political parties. This is the kind of shit that needs to be abolished. That if you have someone in your local area you sit there and you go, I like this guy or this woman. They represent the things that are important to me. Safety in the playgrounds, better education, whatever it is. I want that person to represent me in my local council. And a local council is not made of governmental parties. It's not made of political parties. It's made of individual people who then sit down and work shit out according to what the people want. Local councils. And those local councils can work right up, straight up, with the so-called fucking pyramid. And it can absolutely work that way. Nick and I had a whole concept. Again, years and years we've been discussing this. That everything in the government should be voted on by the people. Everything in the government should be voted on by the people. And we talked about, we're now in the internet age. We now are in an age, now even more so, because before we started talking, when we were talking about this, there was no blockchain where you could go in and you could, things can be voted on and be set, that they can't be changed. Every single item should be voted upon by every single person. And not just literally some kind of checks and balances, that you can't just go in and go, I'll pick A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. That's a null vote, and it's like, throw it out. You didn't do that, right? You didn't, you even to the point of questioning people. Did you understand that question? Did you understand what was there? Did you research that? And make it even to the point of like a lottery. You could start it off as a lottery, as in, every single person who puts in their vote on all the local things that are going on, their name is entered into a some kind of a lottery that happens to encourage people to start actively participating.
Danny.
Get people actively participating again.
Well, first off, Danny, I want to thank you for having this topic. Thank you so much. And second, that is why all the distractions are happening, because people are waking up to the fact we no longer want rulers ruling over us. Okay? We actually want a say in everything that is done. And people are waking up, and now we're just being hit with just shit shows.
Yep.
That's all it is. So, yeah, people, what Danny just said, please listen and think about it.
So is the caucus a vote and the problem with this application they screwed up with, is this a means to let us think those applications won't work?
You're going to have to rephrase that, Mercedes. I'm not sure I understand what you're meaning. Caucus vote.
You meant, was it in Idaho where they had Buttigieg was suddenly in front of Sanders?
I have no idea. I didn't pay any attention to that, so I'm sorry. I literally have all I know is something fucked up happened in Iowa.
Iowa. I see. It was in Iowa.
Mercy, that's just a distraction. Don't
Yes, I
even
know.
let it go. Let it go because, yeah, it is a total distraction.
But
people need to vote. People.
Okay, hold on, Penny. Let Mercedes finish.
There might be something behind it because Buttigieg had to do something with this application behind the scenes over 3 he had to do something with this application which was used, and somehow they had problems to count the votes, and suddenly instead of Sanders he ended up winning. Very screwed up. But I'm wondering if they screwed up for the intention to show the people those things can't work, so that we might not want to vote via any application, not even trying.
I don't think so. My personal opinion is this is just a furthering the fucking Bernie Sanders fucking bullshit rhetoric. Like, oh look, and this, and because it's a distraction. It's a pure and simple distraction.
Hey, Danny, no one's mentioning the fact that ever since Trump walked away from that impeachment, if you listen to any of the morning talk shows, Democrats are bailing like no tomorrow.
I have no idea because I don't follow the American politics at all.
I've been listening. I mean, family after family calling in saying they've been Democrats since the 60s and that they're all officially leaving because they're an embarrassment.
Yeah.
So this is a big deal in this country. I've never seen that happen before.
I get it, but you know what? Like in the greater scheme of things, what does it mean? It means jack shit, because you're still talking about voting for another political party, which is just as corrupt as the other political party. So
but the problem is that's the external, and there's always the internal side of what's happening to everyone on this planet. That's why it's not just an external problem. This is internal. Like, we're seeing people actually pick a fucking side with their spirits.
I totally get it, but you know what? Like, when it comes down to it, Dawn, and I am by no means saying the internal doesn't matter, because I don't feel that way at all. But when we're talking about this stuff on the political stage, it's too easy sometimes to fall. how do I want to say this? Simplicity is what I look at. I look at the simplistic of this whole thing. That the whole political, and it's not just America, right? Remember, this is now playing out all over the world. This is England, fucking France, all over the place. Politics has become so disgusting that everyone is walking away. And it's not even that they're changing sides, it's that they're walking away. So in this instance, what you're talking about here, okay, so we have all these people, they're saying, oh, I've been, our family have been Democrats since the 60s. We're leaving that party now. But it's sorry, I got a frog in my throat. It's the fact that they're literally so disgusted with the entire shit show circus, the entire thing, that it's being blatantly seen everywhere. It's kind of like this wake-up point. And to me, when we look at the voter turnout in all these countries, so we look at the voter turnout in America, in Canada, in England, in places like this, but especially in Canada and America, where politics is so disgusting, and Australia as well, that people just won't even vote. They will not even vote because it repulses them. Because on the deeper level, they already know it doesn't matter. It's not that they're too lazy to vote. It's that they know that their vote means jack shit, and one crook is the same as another crook, and just why bother? It's called just being like, literally, why fucking bother?
Because we see what's going on. I mean, in Canada, now they want to put a licensing thing into the news media, where you have to, if you're a news media outlet, you have to get a license for you to put out news in the media, and that's what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, "Oh, we're not doing that," but that's what they want to do.
Sure, because then they can completely control the media. You're absolutely right. Leonida, you've got your hand up. Did you want to add something to this? I just spotted your hand. Sorry, love.
Yes, please. I'm not going to try and be rude, but I
Go for it.
I have voted for many, many years because I feel that if you don't, then you don't have a right to even say anything about it. And I know it's all screwed up. The thing that gets me is that I believe that the politicians that are running should have to wear a pin for every donation and garbage that they are going to support when they really get in office. I am tired of the crap where they say, well, I'm for the people, and they get in there and they vote for all the corporation crap that just screws everybody out of an income. I am tired of the thing about the garbage in Iowa, about how that was, by the way, that software was invented by the Democratic Party. We know what the Democratic Party does. They did it last year. They're doing it again. It's all about control. It's all about being sidetracked. It's all about controlling the narrative. And yeah, maybe at some point that if you continue to vote, it will at some point make an effect, a difference, which I mean that who knows, that's a possibility. That's why I do it, because at some point I want to be heard. I want my voice to be heard. And if I continue to vote, then hey, I'm not hurting anybody, and I'm exercising a right that I feel should be my right.
Leonida, everyone has to do what moves them, right? There's no right or wrong answer in this. Regardless of what everyone feels, the only thing you can do is do what your heart tells you to do, and follow what your gut says. That's it. That's all there is to it.
The thing of it is that when you get right down to it, if you're trying to control the narrative, then let's do our controlling with what we do about it. And if we don't vote, then I see a problem. If we do vote, then we have done as much as we possibly can in that field, and therefore anything that happens after that is not our problem, because I can't affect a change to it. The only concern that I have is that people feel so oh, well, I got to do this party or that party, the other party. I've been every party. They're all the same.
Yep.
It's all about control. So I just wanted to let everybody know that love you all.
Absolutely. You know what?
Don't fall for the crap. Don't fall for the crap on the TV.
No, exactly. And that's all we can do is everyone has to do their own due diligence and do what feels right for yourself. That's all we can do. And put it in earlier. The fact that, like, for example, anarchy. Wow, I cannot talk tonight. Anarchy does not mean no rules. Anarchy means no rulers. And this is a really important one. This comes back to that whole concept of self-responsibility. When we're self-responsible for ourselves, we don't need a ruler to tell us what to do. We don't need ridiculous licenses for all this shit that's going on. We don't. Hold on, let me fix that. There we go. Sorry. Violet Zone, the U.S. was never a republic. That's the big joke, and I get a lot of my American Patriot friends got really, really upset with me back in 2011 when I was heavily involved in the Patriot movement. The U.S. has never been a republic. Never. It has always been under the control of the crown. And so it's one of those, that's one of those lovely little distractions. U.S., the republic.
By the way, Danny, to go short back to the idea of anarchy, isn't that sort of like a rule without a ruler? Like, you're responsible of your actions and inactions. Isn't that sort of why we have developed the conscious? You know, like,
yes,
this feels bad, right? Like,
yep.
I mean, I could go away with it, but it's a bad thing, so I shouldn't do it, right? I don't want somebody else to do it to me, so I don't do it to someone else, right? Like, conscious, like.
Yep.
Hey, Bassy, on that one, think about it a little bit. That's our natural state, our organic state that's been perverted into this overlay of government and control. In our natural state, in our state that is not divided all over the place, that's what we naturally are as beings.
Exactly.
Absolutely, Maury. Absolutely, Maury.
Maury, we are like that, what do you call them, orangutans? Like those
orangutans? Yeah.
Like that picture that gone around the world the other day, where a wild orangutan is helping like a cameraman out of the water because the orangutan knows like this water is literally filled with bad shit, so to speak. And that orangutan sees that human-like, or that, what do you call it, like this human pose, like this anyway, that humanoid person, and he's offering a hand to pull it out, right? Like, this is like the true state. You see someone in need, you help him.
Yep. And this is the whole thing. I mean, you have to look at the programming that this generation, these younger generations are going through right now. And if you really, really dissect the programming that they're being inundated with, it's don't take responsibility for yourself. Someone else can tell you what to do. Everyone else is responsible. Don't hold yourself accountable. And that's that. Oh, do I want to go down this hole? Okay, fine. Why not? We talk about the clever pieces of programming that have been put out there. Really, really subtle. Put out there subtle pieces of programming. And the co-opting of terms and the co-opting of words and the co-opting of ideas to twist them to mean something they don't mean. The nanny state. We hear this term a lot. The nanny state. And it's like, oh, well, you know, All these kids, they want everything for free. And now, again, especially, this is an American thing that you hear. All of these kids, they want everything for free. They want health care. Well, yeah, because you know what? The rest of the world has health care. Only in America. Like, America's like, what? I think it's the only developed nation in the world that doesn't have a fucking healthcare system. Like, healthcare as in an affordable healthcare system. Let's put it that way. But now, if you say you need a healthcare system, there has to be a healthcare system like there is in Canada, like there is in England, in France, in Germany, fucking list off all the other developed nations. You're immediately labeled as a socialist. Well, you're a socialist. That's not the point, though. That's not the point. But again, they've very subtly changed things so that there's this backlash. There's this instant backlash now that as soon as you say certain things, as soon as you say things like, well, you know what, like healthcare should be for everyone. Everyone should have healthcare, and everyone should have clean drinking water. I think we can all agree that we think that everyone should have clean drinking water. But the programming has gotten so entrenched in there that the moment you start talking about these things, you're slapped with a label and the ears just close. Oh no, they're just a socialist. This is the problem we encounter over and over again with this stuff. So the same thing about the nanny state. So for example, I got in a huge argument with someone back in 2014 when that universal, what do they call it? Universal supplement, not paycheck.
Income.
Universal income supplement, whatever. When they started talking about rolling this out. Basic income. Thank you. I'm glad, like I said, apparently I don't speak English tonight. And I said, you know what? Here's the thing. A universal basic income would be a great idea. A great idea for local economies. Because the reason why we have a massive depression going on, we left recession fucking in 2008. We're in a depression now. Is because there's no money. So from the government's idea of paying people a basic income makes sense. Because if people have enough money coming in, then they have enough money to spend. And the more they spend, the more they make it, the government makes in taxes, the more they make in revenues, the more they make, and it makes the economy of the country stronger because people are spending money. That's what the economy is based on. But immediately, you say basic income, there's this backlash of like, they want to turn it into the nanny state. And I get it. I totally, and look at huge debates, 2014-15. Of course, there's always a back and forth on these things. There's always a back and forth. Yes, basic income could be absolutely a trap. It could totally be used as a trap. Trap it in that you got to provide all this ID that then they can threaten you once you're on it and you've gotten used to having this income coming in. Oh, well, you're going to vaccinate your children or we take it away. Or you have to go do this or we're going to take it away. Or you have to do that or we're going to take it away. Absolutely. The basic income could completely be a trap. That's not because the idea sucks. It's because the people who would roll out the idea are fucking criminals. Right? Like, it's because they're fucking criminals. It's nothing. The basic concept behind it is actually very sound. It's a sound economic concept. If economy is not measured by what corporations tell you they've got in the bank account or how much money they made, don't give a fuck what Bezos made last year. Don't. Because that doesn't help anyone except Bezos. Economy is measured by the amount of money every single person in the country has in their pocket.
Danny,
That is the measurement of economy.
Danny,
Yes, Earl.
I found out in the news yesterday that our city, Windsor, Ontario, has the most unemployment in Canada right now.
Was it a shock?
For me, it was. I'm like, wow, didn't think it was that bad here.
Oh, yeah. But here's the thing. Going back to what I was saying, economy is measured by the amount of money that is exchanging. Now, we're not going to get into the whole thing of what money is, or where money comes from, or the corruption of big banks, or fiat currency. Just take it at face value. Face value. This, look, I don't even have a penny. I was going to like pull over at a coin. I don't even have a single piece of money anywhere near my desk to be able to hold up as an example. That's funny.
But hey, to see another view, I mean, on the other hand, we could have a lot of social services if we would finally hold big corporations to
absolutely.
pay their goddamn
Absolutely.
taxes.
Yep.
You know, you don't have to go full socialism and take everything from everyone.
Nope.
Just tax them the way normal people are taxed. If they are a corporation and we are seen as a corporation too, so then same law for everyone. But then on the other hand, like, I mean, the way everything is going, right? Like back then, like let's say in the 80s, you had a company or that made frozen pizza for the oven, right? Like you had a lot of people who produced that product. These days, you only have to have a few that see through all the machines going. And we see like all the automation that is going on. Like at some point, there will come the point that nobody has a job anymore because those goddamn fucking robots, right? Like, robot.
Robots taking over the world.
Exactly. So at some point we have to think about like a system where we can all live, because the way it's going, we all gonna die because of starvation, because no one is having a job, because robots do all, right? So there is like this cutting edge point where we have to make our voices heard from what we want, because we have to cooperate with the system, right? If there's nobody who buys their product, they go bankrupt too, right? They don't have anything to eat. So
that's exactly it. And when no one can afford frozen pizzas anymore.
Exactly. So we are getting at the point where we will have the leverage in our hand as well as they have. And we cannot, or we may not, or must not miss that exact spot in time. So we are the people.
This is the whole thing. So the problem is that certain systems don't work, and they don't work not because the systems don't work. The reason the systems don't work is because of corruption. It's because they're being run by criminals. Pure and simple. The reason why the US has got the worst healthcare in all of developed nations, the reason why they have the highest infant and maternal mortality rates of every developed nation, even though they spend 10 times more than a lot of other nations, is because of the corruption within the system, which is why it costs $1,000 for an EpiPen in the States, or I don't know, God knows the price of insulin in the States, etc. It's because of the corruption. I'll go further to say, going back to what we were talking earlier, the United Nations. The concept behind the United Nations is not a bad one. We all live on this planet. The concept that every country gets together and sends their representative in, and that they all discuss things and work things out, is not a bad one. The problem isn't with the concept. The problem is with the corruption and the criminals running the fucking system. So this is where we keep tripping over this shit. And there comes a time when we have to say, okay, like literally, it comes a time when we have to say, you gotta like fucking crush it up, fucking throw it all in the garbage and start over again. there comes a time, and that's where we are right now. And I mean, this is it. If you want to go back to the whole coronavirus, why would the media and all the talking heads that control the media be pushing the concept, of a pandemic is coming? Well, it gets anyone off the streets. Because if France, as I said this a couple of weeks ago, if France was to declare a pandemic with the coronavirus, what's the first law they would enact? Curfews, quarantines, no more public gathering. That would end all the protests, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and they would probably say, guys, let's get a chip because, infections. If you held money, you can infect yourself. Let's get all the chips so we don't have to interact anymore, right?
But this is, regardless of that, what I'm talking about is the fact of, like, the entire planet is in uprising right now. The entire planet is in uprising at the moment. It's not just Hong Kong and France. It is happening all over the world. And it's like, boom, 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 boom. It's fireworks going off everywhere. So if you want to talk about, why a coronavirus now, why would the media be pushing the concept, the idea even, of there being a pandemic? Remember, this is the exact same thing they tried to push with the Ebola virus in 2014, which didn't happen. But it made people panic. People who panic cancel their travel arrangements. People stay home. They don't go out and they don't mingle. They don't go to political rallies. They don't go out to protest things because, oh my God, I don't have a surgical mask. I can't go out in public. Right? There's a lot of shit going on right now. Now, Igor, like you just said, financial markets are a fucking joke at the moment. Like, it's insane what's going on. Big distractions, though, keep people from talking about it. The fact that you got dipshits selling how many $1 million of Amazon stock today? That's huge. That's like a serious, huge thing. When $4 billion in Amazon stock he sold today. But everyone balance your brooms.
That's partly because of what Microsoft had just made a deal with the military. And that contract was supposed to go to Amazon, but the military...
Nah, darling. Everything Amazon does comes from China. Everything Amazon does comes from China.
All I'm saying.
Yeah. Sorry, Igor, what was that? Hold on, everyone, just a second. Igor, what did you want to say?
Then I just wanted to say that a very respected mainstream academic in Russia, and yet he's very alternative. You remember maybe that I mentioned this type of Russian academia who are absolutely alternative.
Yeah.
He's one of them, and he's also related to GRU, Russian military intelligence. So
yeah.
He's super mainstream and he's super alternative. And he publicly stated that there will be a financial markets crash before March the 1st. And the coronavirus is absolutely related to that. And it's instrumental in many ways. And once the financial markets crash has happened, before the 1st of March this year, everybody will just forget about it. It will disappear.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
And I mean, that's every one of these pandemics. It's exactly what happens. It's exactly what happens.
Hey,
they just disappear. The next thing comes up. They get over that lump, whatever it is they need to keep everyone away from, and then it just disappears. Go ahead, Penny.
One thing, when I was researching how much the corporations are actually paying in their taxes, one thing that came up, and guys, I don't know if this is just yet another distraction, but through the research, the fourth quarter is coming up on us, on corporations, and what they do so that they don't have to pay in taxes is they sell restricted stock at a discount. Okay, and then they take that discount and they show it as a loss.
As a loss, yep.
Exactly. And so what you're seeing right now from Amazon and Facebook and everything is this sale of restricted, now mind you guys, restricted stock. Okay?
Yep.
So don't think all these companies are panicking or anything like that. It is normal what they are doing. It's just becoming transparent now.
Very, 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 very transparent. Because holy shit. Like seriously, just holy shit. Okay, well, we've spent the whole night talking politics, which I don't usually do, but you know, hey, what the fuck? I wanted to just got the last 10 minutes of the show. Last 10 minutes. Jump over and talk about. I don't know if everyone had a chance to watch the discussion that I put out last weekend with Amina and Anne and Gail and I talking about Glastonbury and the Arthurian stuff. You loved it. Awesome. Okay. So because I wanted to get feedback on it. I wanted to hear what if you guys had any comments, because I had got a lot of interesting comments come back. People posted a lot of really interesting links. If you go to the show and look at the YouTube comments, there was a couple of really good comments in the YouTube on the page, and there was a lot of links have been posted out. I know the Unfuckers group on Facebook has posted a lot of links on different things like that, to the point of barely keeping up. And our group has been chatting nonstop since then. And I think we're going to have to do another update because that conversation just seemed to be a jump off point, and it's just gone diving into all kinds of other stuff. Like one of the ones that's come up is like, where was the city of Troy? You know, as in like the Trojan horse and all that story and Helen of Troy. Because according to a lot of researchers, it's not in Greece and it's not in Turkey. Do you want to know where it is? Troy is in England. I've got a PDF book that I've downloaded that has been, I haven't gotten through it yet. Amina's blasted through the whole thing already. I haven't gotten through more than a few pages of it. Nick's reading it as well because he's just been like glued to this. Basically talking about the fact of like the stories of Troy, that story of like Troy and the Trojan horse, etc., Helen of Troy, etc. Everything that is described, for example, in Homer, Odyssey, all these famous books, these famous historical books that give the story of Troy. Hold on, guys, just for 1 second. Just one second. Sorry about that. Give very, very detailed descriptions of Troy, of the land and the sea around Troy, etc. And there is no place in Turkey or in Greece that matches up with this. So they're saying, like, and they've pinpointed a place where they think of this one researcher specifically has pinpointed a place in England where he believes Troy actually existed. And the fact of the piece that shook me right through was the fact of the descriptions of Egypt in the book aren't in what we call Egypt now. And they're saying that the Egypt that he's discussing, that is discussed in these old stories of, you know, Homer and the Odyssey, and those historical people of that era who wrote the historical history, none of them ever mention the pyramids or the Sphinx. Never mentioned even once, although they describe in great detail the plains and fields all around and everything else. And this guy is saying that Egypt was probably what we call France. in these books, and that Troy was in England. Now, just to shake you up, like, I mean, that's one of those things where you just kind of go, what? And I will put a link to the guy's website in the books, and he's not the only one. It's not like there's one guy who's doing this. There's a lot of people who've been talking about this. So if you will remember in the show, we were talking about ley lines. And I believe it's brought up in that discussion with all of us about what they call St. Michael's ley line that runs from Cornwall up through Glastonbury, straight up through Kitty Corner, if you will, to the mid-eastern portion of England. The place where he says that they say that Troy exists is smack on that line, on that ley line. And they have nothing to do with each other. Like, this guy is a historian. He has nothing to do with discussions of ley lines or woo-woo at all. Not even a tiny bit. But yeah, it was just out of my own curiosity. I went and I got the maps out and I pulled out the ley line, what they call the Michael's ley line, and I pulled and then looked at it and I was like, oh, look, there it is. Troy is supposed to be right up fucking there. Gog Magog. If you go into Google Maps and type in Gog Magog UK, that is where they say that Troy was. And to the fact that was the other thing is one of the other pieces is all the areas that they've tried to stay that is where Troy existed in Greece and in Turkey. They've never found any physical evidence. Yet that area of England, that specifically that area of Gog Magog, they have found massive amounts of bronze swords, spearheads, knives, weaponry that would have been from that 800 BC era, which is when Troy was the fall of Troy was supposed to have taken place. So yeah, the discussion has gone crazy. Like, we have just been like seriously down rabbit hole after rabbit hole. There's a lot more to be said, so I think we will definitely have to do another sit down and do another recording for sure. Yeah, and Star Gog, the fact that area is called Gog Magog, which is of course a biblical name, very, very interesting too. Very, very interesting. So yeah, up and coming conversations to be had. That's it for us for tonight. Sunday's movie is we're watching Doctor Strange. And again, that's another movie we just sat and watched it. My family just sat down and watched it again last week sometime. Oh, there's some interesting pieces in that. There's some, one of those things when you actually watch it, sit and watch it. It's like, oh, really interesting. So we're going to be watching Doctor Strange on Sunday night. So anyone who wants is welcome to join us. Same bat time, same bat channel, so to speak. And that's going to be it for tonight. I'll say good night to the live stream. Everyone out on Twitch, good night, everyone. And I'll see everyone next Wednesday for the UnFuckIt discussion. Ciao.